What is the largest country in the world? Russia is the largest country in the world. What is the biggest continent in the world? Asia is the biggest continent in the world. What is the highest mountain in the world? Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world.
Read and repeat. Comparatives and superlatives.
Now we have one more thing to look at. Remember, in the comparative form, in an adjective that ended in Y, we have to change it. Change the Y to an I before we add ER in the comparative form. Okay, when we have a superlative, and we have an adjective that ends in Y, we must change the Y again to an I and then add E-S-T for the superlative form. Let's look at this example. Johnny is very dirty. He is the dirtiest boy in the school. So notice how for the superlative of dirty, we changed the Y to an I before adding EST. Okay, now let's practice. Sylvia, what sport do you think is the dirtiest?
Well, football is dirty, rugby is dirty. I think American football is a dirty sport because the players are always very dirty.
All right, good, Sylvia. Linda, what do you think is the prettiest city in Asia?
I don't know. I can only see pictures of Asia. Hong Kong is a pretty city. Kuala Lumpur is a pretty city. Agra is the prettiest city in Asia. The Taj Mahal is there.
All right, good, Linda. Alberto, what do you think is the noisiest city in Italy?
They are all noisy. The big cities are very bad. I think Rome is the noisiest city in Italy.
All right, thank you, everyone. You were wonderful. Let's review the superlative form one more time. All right, with one-syllable words, remember, one-syllable words, we need to add E-S-T to the adjective. Okay, let's look at some examples. Summer is the shortest season in Alaska. Next example. Mount Blanc is the highest mountain in Europe. New York is the biggest city in North America. Okay, don't forget, with the adjectives good and bad, good becomes the best in the superlative, and bad becomes the worst in the superlative. Also, far becomes the farthest or the furthest. More examples, take a look. The Florida Marlins is the best baseball team in America. London has the worst weather in Europe. Okay, now with two-syllable words, two or more syllables. In the comparative form, we need to add the most. Okay? Or, of course, the opposite of the most, the least. Okay, we have some more examples. Take a look. Her brother is the least interesting boy I know. Next example. Amsterdam is the most exciting city in Holland. Another example. Istanbul is the most crowded city in Turkey. Okay, so with two-syllable adjectives ending in Y, remember, change the Y to an I and then add EST. Examples, take a look. Krakow is the prettiest city in Poland. Next example. Spanish food, Linda, is the spiciest food in Europe. Now here's a chart to help you remember superlative forms. Follow along. For one-syllable adjectives, here are some examples. Old, in the comparative form, it is older than. In the superlative, it's the oldest. Another example of a one-syllable adjective, green. In the comparative form, it becomes greener than. In the superlative form, it is the greenest. So, remember, for one-syllable adjectives, for comparative form, add ER. And for the superlative form, add EST. Okay, now let's look at two or more syllable adjectives. First example, handsome. In its comparative form, becomes more handsome than. In its superlative form, it becomes the most handsome. Okay, important. In its superlative form, becomes more important than. Superlative, the most important. So we use more and most with two or more syllable adjectives. Okay, now let's look at adjectives that end in Y. For instance, busy. In its comparative form, it becomes busier than, with an I, not a Y, and then ER. In its superlative form, it becomes the busiest. How about pretty? As a comparative, it is prettier than. As a superlative, it is the prettiest. So, ER and EST are used with two-syllable adjectives ending in Y. We just change the Y to an I. Friendly becomes friendlier than or more friendly than. So two ways to form the comparative. Friendly becomes the friendliest or the most friendly in its superlative. So some two-syllable adjectives use IER, IES, or more and the most. Irregular adjectives. Good, comparative form, better than, superlative form, the best. Bad, comparative form, worse than, superlative form, the worst. Far, comparative form, farther than or further than, superlative form, the farthest or the furthest. So good, bad, and far have irregular forms.